So for some time I've wanted to do a series of small videos to talk about some of the more fascinating aspects of the tractor industry. Today I want to start by talking about one of my personal favourite tractors, a tractor developed by Ford which ultimately paved the way for John Deere, the mighty or humble Ford 6000. This tractor I've owned for some time. In fact, I've owned two of them. Now, the story of the Ford 6000 and the failure of the power shift transmission developed for the Ford 6000 cannot be discussed without talking about a man who worked with Thomas Edison, who worked with Harry Ferguson and Henry Ford, Harold Brock. Harold Brock was ultimately the chief engineer for Ford tractors and oversaw the development of the Ford 6000. But before we get into the detail, let's go back to the early 1960s. The race for the gas turbine engine was on. International had developed and released the HT341 experimental tractor, which was a gas turbine or jet engine tractor. Now Ford had been developing its own, which was to be known as the Typhoon. In March of 1957, the free piston gas turbine engine had begun development at Ford. Now this jet engine was to be mated to a selector speed transmission or power shift transmission, which would later become known as the selector speed at Ford. Now the Ford Typhoon program was eventually scrapped. However, when the Ford 6000 was later released in 1961, it came out with many of the styling cues of the original pre-production Typhoon tractor. Futuristic grille, a sleek, slender and sloping stylized bonnet, and also headlights firmly in the front grille made of cast iron. When this Ford 6000 was released, the power shift transmission was not quite developed to the expectations or the level that Harold Brock thought it should be. Ultimately, where rumour becomes fact is a little bit grey at this point. However, Harold has quoted himself as saying to Ford, "You better find yourself a new engineer," which ultimately Ford did, and they went ahead and released the Ford 6000. Now when this Ford 6000 was released, it was not released in the blue and white colour combinations which we know today. It was released in red and white. Harold was proven right by farmers around the world. The Ford 6000 had massive problems with the transmission. Now when the tractors were recalled, farmers had the option of having a new tractor given to them, or they could wait for their tractor to be upgraded. When the tractor was upgraded, it was returned not in a red and white colour combination, but in a blue and white combination. So how does John Deere fit into all of this? Well, after leaving Ford Motor Company, Harold Brock joined John Deere. When he was approached by John Deere, he was told that they were worried that Ford was developing a power shift transmission. Harold quoted himself again as saying, "Well, don't worry about it. It won't work. We'll design a power shift transmission that really works." Harold Brock stayed at John Deere until his retirement in 1972. Ultimately, the power shift transmission for John Deere became one of the most successful transmissions, especially of that time, put into any kind of tractor. Personally, I love the Ford 6000, and I think it's got a very good position in any well-rounded tractor collection. It's relative scarcity if you can find a well-working and good condition tractor. Its styling cues, which are unlike anything else, especially of that time, and the fact it is so instrumental in both shaping the development of a power shift transmission, it means that it has a very good position in the heart of any good collector, and I'm sure that I'll be buying another one. I mean, I've already had two, so may as well get a third or a fourth. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to see any more of these videos, please feel free to like and subscribe and send me a message if there are any other topics or any other stories you'd like to hear. Thank you.